So first thing to keep in mind is that forward is positive, backwards is negative, up and right is what we think of as forwards, down and left is what we think of as backwards. Okay? Second thing that we need to keep in mind is the way to find net force by combining all forces in one axis. So the axis is either the x-axis or the y-axis. So you combine all the x's together or you combine all the y's. You need to do both. You need to do both the x and the y direction unless there isn't one. For example, situation C has no x direction, so you don't need to do the x net force. There isn't one. Okay? But let's look at situation A. So situation A, I need to find the x and the y net force. So all I do for the net force is I add together all the forces in a direction. So in the x direction, I say net force equals all the forces added together in that axis. And those forces would be 5 plus a negative 5, because that's in the opposite direction. 5 plus negative 5 is 0, so the net force in the x direction is 0. In the y direction, I do the same thing. F net equals all the forces in the up, 3, plus negative all the forces in the down, 3. So 3 plus negative 3 equals 0. And there's your net force. That's all you're doing for situations A, B, C, and D. Just finding the net force, figuring out what the total value is. That's it. So let's take a look here at number 2 and see what's different. I'm going to do C, because C is the only one on this one, so I'll just solve this one. On this one, you are given the net force, and you need to find the missing forces. So this is kind of backwards of what I did. Up here, I didn't know the net force, and I used the forces that I did know to find it. On this one, I do know the net force, and I'm going to use the forces that I don't know to solve. Okay? So, C, I have a net force of 900 up. So it's a y direction only. Okay? So, what are the net force? 900 is my net force. So I just write 900 for the net force equals. And it equals the up forces, C, plus negative the down forces. So I need to add 200 to both sides to get C by itself. And I get C equals 1100 newtons. And that is my answer for C. That's it. That's all there is to it. Now, there's another way that you can think about this. If the net force is 900 up, that means C is 900 more than down. Okay? So C is 900 more than 200. So what's 900 more than 200? 1100. So that's another way to figure that out. But all you're doing on the front page is you're either figuring out your net force if you don't know it, and if you do know the net force, you're figuring out what the missing value is. Now, on situations A, B, C, and D, make sure to tell me the direction of the net force. I didn't on A because there is no direction of net force. The net force was 0. Okay? So if the net force is 0, you just leave it as 0. But if the net force isn't 0, tell me the direction. Is it up? Is it down? Is it left? Is it right? What direction is it? Okay? So like an example on situation B, that one should be pretty easy to figure out what direction it's in. Okay? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come around and see what questions you have. I want you to work on 1 and 2. Get situation A, B, C, D all finished, and then do A through H. Once you've got those all done, turn over to the back page, and I want you to try the back. You may need some help on the back, which I can offer very easily. Okay? So the back is very similar with one change, and that's this section here. And I can tell you how to deal with this section very easily. Other than that, it's just like that last section. You're given some of the forces, you're given the net force sometimes, or sometimes you're not, and you got to find the missing values. So it's the same basic idea with this stuff being different, this MAF net, that's new. Okay, but I can show you that pretty easily. So go ahead and get started. If you're done with the front, flip over to the back. I will come around and see what questions you have, and we will go from there.